The 1897 BIAK na BATO Constitution. This constitution was the first constitution of the Philippines that was formally established and signed by Emilio Aguinaldo, the first president of the Philippine Republic, on November 1, 1897. Prior to this event, the Tejeros Convention happened on March 22, 1897, and Emilio Aguinaldo unanimously won the election and became the president. On July 10, 1897, the headquarters of Emilio Aguinaldo in Talisay, Batangas was surrounded by the Spaniards. Together with his 500 soldiers, Emilio Aguinaldo escaped and went to BIAK na BATO, San Miguel de Mayumo, where he established his new headquarters. Aguinaldo issued a proclamation from his hideout in BIAK na BATO entitled "To the Brave Sons of the Philippines," in which it contains listed revolutionary demands. With this aim of independence, the 1897 BIAK na BATO Constitution was drafted by Isabelo Artacho and Felix Ferrer and officially declared as the Constitution of the Philippine Republic on November 1, 1897. The 1897 BIAK na BATO Constitution contains 33 articles stating the rights and liberty of the Filipinos that was based on the 1895 Cuban Constitution of Jimaguayu. That will be expounded by the next reporter. The preamble of 1897 BIAK na BATO Constitution states the separation of the Philippines from the Spanish monarchy and their formation into an independent state with its own government called the Philippine Republic has been the end sought by the revolution in the existing war, begun on the 24th of August 1896, and therefore, in its name and by the power delegated by the Filipino people, interpreting faithfully their desires and ambitions with the representatives of the revolution in a meeting at BIAK na BATO, November 1, 1887, unanimously adopted the following articles for the Constitution of the state. However, the Constitution did not last due to the Pact of BIAK na BATO, which was signed on December 14, 1897. This was a document that contains an agreement together with certain conditions between the Governor-General Fernando Primo de Rivera, the current Governor-General in that time, and Emilio Aguinaldo, the first Philippine President, to end the Philippine Revolution. For more information, here is Floraline for the analysis of the sources.
Thank you for that, Mr. Galicia. Now for my source discussion, the 1897 Constitution of BIAK na BATO is a primary source which is written. This document serves as a primary source into knowing the Philippine history since its contents contains events regarding our republic and constitution and our relation to America and Spain before. For its external criticism, the Constitution was written by Felix Ferrer and Isabelo Artacho, who copied almost word for word the Cuban Constitution of Jimaguayo. The BIAK na BATO Constitution was signed on November 1, 1897. It was established during a meeting held at BIAK na BATO in the town of San Miguel, Bulacan. The Constitution was originally released in only Spanish and Tagalog. Now for its internal criticism, the Constitution of BIAK na BATO was provided for the establishment of a Supreme Council that would serve as the supreme governing body of the Republic. The writer also highlighted some fundamental human rights such as freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and the right to education. On March 22, 1897, the Tejeros Assembly elected the first Philippine President, Emilio Aguinaldo. Aguinaldo presided over the writing of the Constitution of BIAK na BATO. On the whole, the BIAK na BATO scheme was an approach to leadership that moderated the government's authoritarian origins by self-imposed limitations characterized by grace and conscientiousness of genuine patriotism. The goal of the Constitution of BIAK na BATO is to be separated from the Spanish monarchy to form into an independent state with its own government called the Philippine Republic. Also, to end the existing war that has begun on the 24th of August in 1896. As what I've said earlier, this document serves as a primary source into knowing the Philippine history. That's a wrap for the source discussion, and here's Miss Gadja
Thank you, Floraline. Now, let's talk about are there controversies in 1897 constitutions of BIAK na Bato? Let's start with the question, how was the 1897 constitution established? The Republic of BIAK na Bato, officially known as Republic of the Philippines, and its constitution was the first republic ever declared in the Philippines by revolutionary leader Emilio Aguinaldo and his fellow revolutionaries. Despite its achievements, including the adoption of the Philippines' first constitution, the republic lasted only a little more than a month. It was established by a peace contract negotiated by Aguinaldo and the Spanish Governor General Fernando Primo de Rivera, which contained a provision for Aguinaldo and important accomplices to be exiled to Hong Kong. Aguinaldo will receive 800,000 Mexican pesos as payment for the revolutionaries, as well as amnesty. Aguinaldo received a 400,000 partial payment and left for Hong Kong on December 27, 1897. Next is 1897 BIAK na Bato Constitution, a copy from the Cuban constitutions of Gemaguayo. According to many historical sources, the Provisional Constitution 1897 BIAK na Bato Constitution of this republic was copied almost word for word the Cuban constitutions of Gemaguayo. Based on our thorough research, the Constitution of Gemaguayo was approved on September 16, 1895, which consisted of 24 articles and eliminated contradictions between the civil and military command against the Spanish metropolis. However, the 1897 BIAK na Bato Constitution consists of 33 articles, including the establishment of Supreme Council of Grace and Justice. We can conclude that the 1897 Constitution is not a duplicate of the 1895 Cuban constitutions of Gemaguayo, and it is just a basis of forming an independent constitution since Filipinos were still starting to learn and building an independent state. Next, let's talk about the relevance of 1897 Constitution of BIAK na Bato in Philippine history. The 1897 Constitutions of BIAK na Bato has a great relevance in Philippine history because it was the first constitutional republic in the Philippines. It is because the BIAK na Bato Constitution called for the creation of a Supreme Council which would act as the highest form of government for the country. Now, here's Christine to further discuss the relevance of the topic to the new generation Filipino.
Now, I am going to discuss the relevance of the topic to the new generation Filipino. We generally remember that the BIAK na Bato Constitution established a supreme leader to act as the Republic's highest governing body and set down a number of fundamental human rights, including the religious liberty, the freedom of expression, and the right to an education. The existence of this constitution today would serve as a reminder to the younger generation of Filipinos that our tormented predecessors, brave, noble men, and patriots sought to put an escalation of violence and turmoil that had gripped the nation. Now, the question that arises at this point is how current and relevant this constitution is to today's Filipinos. As a member of the younger generation, we would assert that without the establishment of this constitution, our nation would not be able to achieve its primary objectives. Without it, the Philippines wouldn't be free or enjoy the benefits we do have today in the present owing to the BIAK na Bato Constitution. And I only want to express my gratitude for that. Now, let's use this moment to think back on the virtues and character of our ancestors and the price they were ready to pay to secure our independence. To our revolutionary generals, I would like to show great appreciation who fought against overwhelming odds and they can take their place with any other nation's national heroes with pride. Let's strive to emulate some of their passion and commitment in our daily life and make an effort to continue with a similar level of commitment to our obligations to duty, honor, and nation. This is the least we can do as a modern-day Filipinos and also demonstrate to everyone the power of our integrity, camaraderie, and cooperations just like the revolutionaries did years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Verones. And now going for the purpose of the 1897 BIAK na BATO Constitution. It is one of the essential steps of Dominion Filipinos leaders of the past. It was drafted by Felix Ferrer and Isabelo Artacho that contains the significant information in building the independent state. The 1897 BIAK na BATO Constitution became as the initial blueprint of liberty to reign the peace of during Spanish colonization. It also talked to the human rights, freedom of religion, freedom of press, and the right to education. The Constitution was established when the Pact of BIAK na BATO was signed on December 15, 1897, and created temporary peace between the Spanish government and Philippines under Emilio Aguinaldo. Emilio Aguinaldo became the first president-elect of the Philippines Republic that aims to end the abusive colonization of the Spanish government by separating the Philippines and the Spanish monarchy and form the independent state of its own government that has been end sought by the revolution in the existing war which began on 24th of August of 1896. This historical event made me realize on how the leaders of the past struggled just to put end the war, not just for their benefits but for all the succeeding generation of the Filipino race. In this also set out bills the people bound by Constitution, believe and share and establish the basic structure of government and defines the government of power and duties and create the structures of government that provides the supreme law for the country. War made me think on how many casualties and sacrifices happened in our history just to attain the peace treaty of BIAK na BATO 1897 Constitution for people to be free from the shackles of war. Now I realize that this important event that we must not be forgotten and remember how this 1897 Constitution reformed our country and our heroes will always be part of our history and it will never change but to move forward and to hope the new age will continue of legacy of peace. Further, Ms. Gamali will discuss the significance of the topic.
Thank you, Jasper. My summarization and realization on this topic is that in 1897, the BIAK na BATO Constitution was drafted by Isabelo Artacho and Felix Ferrer on the primary day of the month of November of the year 1897. The representatives of the people of the Philippine island gathered that was headed by the first Philippine President Emilio Aguinaldo. The 1897 BIAK na BATO Constitution was provided for the establishment of a Supreme Council that will function the best body of the Republic. It also outlines certain fundamental human rights like freedom of faith, freedom of the press, and also the right to education. Our country and the Filipino was succumbed to abusive treatment of the Spanish government. The abusive treatment of the Spanish government is the ignited heart of patriotism and rebellion of the Filipino leaders and created the Constitution to establish an independent country where our Filipinos can experience peace and be free from any restraints. The history of 1897 BIAK na BATO Constitution is highly significant in the Philippine history because it shows how the leader seek for solutions to be free from the bonds of colonization. The 1897 BIAK na BATO contributed to the body of knowledge of the Philippine history and became as the foundation of the Philippine Republic. The creation of the 1897 Constitution manifests how the Filipinos were able to stand in their own way and courageous enough to be independent despite knowing that their lives will be sacrificed. This is the reason why we should always be grateful of the representatives of the revolution during the Spanish colonization in reaching the demand for liberty for our country. Thank you.